Most people believe wealth follows effort, that the world notices discipline, that persistence accumulates, that over time work is rewarded. This belief feels stable because effort is visible, fatigue can be measured, time can be counted. When someone succeeds, the explanation feels simple. They worked harder, they stayed longer, they sacrificed more. When someone struggles, the explanation feels just as simple. They lacked consistency, they made mistakes, they did not push far enough. This belief is not irrational, it is coherent. It offers order. But over long periods, a contradiction appears. Millions of people work continuously and remain stationary. Others appear to advance with far less visible strain. The difference persists across industries, generations, and systems. At first this is explained away, timing, luck, connections, but those explanations do not hold under repetition. When the same outcomes appear again and again, the cause is rarely personal, it is structural. Effort explains motion, it does not explain direction. Two people can exert equal energy and arrive at entirely different outcomes, not because one deserves more, but because they are standing in different places. This idea is uncomfortable, because it suggests the world may not respond primarily to intention. It may respond to placement, and once placement enters the picture, effort alone becomes insufficient. That distinction matters, but it cannot be understood yet. Every system contains movement. Money moves, information moves, labor moves, but movement does not occur randomly. It follows channels. Wherever value flows, it follows paths of least resistance. Those paths form naturally. Supply chains, platforms, institutions, markets. Within every path there are narrow points, places where flow must pass through. These are not dramatic locations. They rarely look powerful. They are structural. Positions placed near these points do not need to chase opportunity. Opportunity passes through them. This is the difference between effort and position. Effort generates motion. Position intercepts motion. Effort must be repeated. Position compounds automatically. A person downstream must keep moving to survive. A person upstream can remain still while the system works on their behalf. This is not strategy, it is geometry. When value enters a system, it does not distribute evenly, it concentrates, not because of intention, because of friction. Each layer absorbs a small portion as flow passes through. Over time, accumulation appears deliberate, but it is mechanical. This is why outcomes detach from labor. The system is not measuring contribution, it is responding to location. Once a position sits close enough to the flow, growth becomes ambient, quiet, predictable, persistent. This becomes important later, because positions that compound without effort do not behave like ordinary income. They behave like gravity. If positions accumulate value automatically, they also face risk, not from failure, from disruption. Systems cannot survive if their key positions dissolve easily. So they adapt, not consciously, structurally. The first defense is opacity. The most powerful positions are rarely visible. They hide behind abstraction, ownership layers, legal structures, contractual language. When a position cannot be clearly seen, it cannot be easily challenged. Visibility attracts pressure. Opacity deflects it. The second defense is complexity. As positions grow valuable, process grows around them. Rules, procedures, dependencies, not to improve efficiency, but to raise the cost of interference. Understanding becomes expensive. And when understanding requires time, most people disengage. The position remains untouched. The third defense is substitution. When pressure builds, the occupant is replaced. A leader resigns. A manager is removed. A committee restructures. Emotion is released, but the structure remains unchanged. This creates the appearance of accountability without altering function. The system survives by sacrificing individuals. Positions endure. This is why power often appears resilient even after visible failure. The architecture absorbs shock without shifting its center. This assumption does not survive stress, because when conditions tighten, defenses strengthen, and positions retreat further from visibility. If positions persist, the question becomes access. Who is permitted near them? Most people believe access is earned, through skill, through credentials, through performance. But systems do not grant access based on fairness. They grant access based on uncertainty reduction. When decisions must be made with limited information, systems favor what feels familiar. Language patterns, behavioral cues, shared assumptions, not because they are superior, because they are predictable. Familiarity lowers perceived risk. This creates a quiet filter. Those raised near positions learn the signals early. They do not study them, they absorb them. How meetings sound, how confidence is expressed, how disagreement is framed. Others may be equally capable, but capability does not reduce uncertainty. Recognition does. So access narrows, not through rejection, through preference. The gate is not locked, it is selective, and during moments of pressure, systems contract further. They retreat toward what feels known. This is why outcomes cluster. The same institutions, the same networks, the same paths repeating. Not because others are excluded, because insiders arrive pre-translated. They require less explanation, less trust, less time, and time is the rarest resource in power. By the time money appears, most sorting has already occurred. Access precedes position. Position precedes wealth, and access begins far earlier than careers. It begins with environment. What feels possible, what feels familiar, what feels unrealistic. People do not reject opportunity consciously. They fail to recognize it as applicable. Certain paths never appear on the internal map, not because they are forbidden, because they feel foreign. This is psychological inheritance, not taught, modeled. Children do not learn limits through instruction. They absorb them through observation. What adults discuss, what they avoid, what they treat as for people like us. Over time, perception narrows, not from oppression, from normalization. The system does not need to block movement, if movement never occurs to the observer. This is the most stable form of control, because it feels like personality, not structure. By the time effort begins, direction has already been chosen. An effort, applied in the wrong direction, can be limitless without altering outcome. At this point, the pattern becomes visible. Effort creates motion. Position determines capture. Positions defend themselves. Access regulates entry. Psychology defines perception. None of this requires intent. None of this requires malice. It functions automatically like architecture, which leaves one final tension unresolved. If the external system is structural, if access is social, and if perception is internal, then the final barrier is not economic. It is cognitive, because the hardest system to observe is the one doing the observing, and structures that feel like identity are the most difficult to question. That is where the architecture completes itself, and where most inquiries stop, not because the system cannot be seen, but because seeing it changes the observer, and not everyone is prepared for what that recognition demands.